Hey guys, we're having a problem with the live stream for some reason. Video is not playing, but is playing. So give me a second to work this out. All right, let's go ahead and get started here. Good afternoon, everybody. Hope everybody's still doing well. Hope you had a good weekend, even though every day is a weekend kind of now. I don't know. Today, we're going over part 2 of your project and a couple other little announcements, paying attention things. First off, I don't know about you guys, but for me, this week has been kind of a shift, going from this being a weird temporary thing to being our new normal. So it definitely feels a little weird that we're now in online school for the time being until for an indeterminate length of time. We don't know how long we're going to be here doing this, so we might as well get used to it. I found that having a personal routine for me is very important. Kind of having to do the same thing, and having my separating my work time from my rest time is a little bit more difficult here. So what I actually had to do is go on my computer and set up a completely different account. So I'm on that when I'm working, and then when I'm done working, I log out of that and do something different. Important thing for you guys to think about is ways to minimize distractions. And remember, we did that little I don't remember what it's called, not really an assignment, but the little thing in class where we did the multitasking with the alphabet and the numbers and everything, and we learned that humans are really bad at multitasking. So when you're at home working, please do your best to set up a workspace and minimize your distractions while you're working. One other reminder with our playing and our technique assignments, for now, you're going to get your new assignment on Monday. It's due by Friday. I think a week is enough time to get it done, but the whole point of this is that you spend time playing a little bit every day. Because if you don't, your muscles go away, your muscle memory goes away, and you won't be able to complete the assignments if the only time you look at it is the day you're going to turn it in. Now, let's move on to step 2 of our... Is he banned? I just put him in timeout. Can I unmount it? Put this. Don't know. He shouldn't be banned. Timed out for 300 seconds. Whoops. So that's what, like 5 minutes or so. He'll be back in a bit. You should be able to reload then. Hey. So here we go. Let's move on to step 2. I saw most of us get everything done, or many of us have turned in your assignment. It was due right before class just now, but let's take a look at it together. Julian, please don't spam my channel with things that are irrelevant to class right now. Alright, so I've added it in here in your note flight theory assignment. You have step 1, which most people, or many of us, have finished. If you didn't submit it already, you can still submit it later, but it will be considered late. But I'll let you go ahead and turn it in. We're going on to step 2, semi-orchestration. There's some instructions here, but I'm going to go over it right now on what to do. So for the most part, you're going to have 2 different versions. Like there's going to be 2, for all of your work, you're going to have 2 different ways you could have done it. You could have chosen one that had all the parts. You'll have one that has separate parts already written out for you. Or you'll have one that's just a melody and a lead sheet. Either way, they're going to be slightly different, but for the most part, most of step 2 is the same. There's only one part that's going to be different, and we'll get to it in a second. So, here is my version, the one I chose to transcribe, and I'm going to move on to step 2, or part 2 right now. My first thing, and it's in the instructions on Schoologies, you need to go to the top where it says save a copy. Yes, if I gave you some feedback, you should definitely submit it again. You're going to need to go to the top and go to save a copy to make a new copy of this to work on part 2. I don't want you changing part 1, and it might ask you if you want to leave the page. As long as you've saved your part 1, you're okay. And then it'll open up your saved copy, and we're going to rename it just so we can keep it clear. We know which one's which. And I'm going to add step 2 or part 2 at the end of it, so you know when to do. So we know that it's our part 2. The next step in doing this. I'll give us some extra time at the end, guys, to do some question and answers. So please, if it's not a specific question into what I'm doing right now, hold it off till the end. The next step, once I've made my new copy and renamed it for step 2, I go to parts up here in the corner, and I'm going to add all of our instruments that we use in class. So I'm going to go to add part and add each of our instruments. So we're going to add a flute part. We're going to add an alto saxophone part. We're going to add a trumpet part. And we're going to add a trombone part. For right now, that's all we're going to worry about. And you can see right now it added all of those instruments at the bottom. Oh, I also want to add a tenor sax, my mistake, for Julian and Alejandro. And Florencia doesn't have her Barry at home, so I assume we'll keep with alto for now. So one thing you can do on the side here is if you want to reorder where instruments go, all you have to do is drag and put it in the right place. I'm going to put it right below alto sax, and now all of my instrument parts are in. Now, you may notice right now, if I look at the key signatures, they're all the same. That is somewhat incorrect, because up here next to score, there's a button that says show in concert pitch. When that is filled in or white, that means it's showing every instrument in concert pitch. If you tried to play this, or if we tried to play this as it's written right now, it would sound really nasty. So when I turn that off, it'll change us back to correct pitches. You'll notice that flute and trombone still have 2 flats because those 2 instruments read in concert pitch. So when they play a C or they play a B flat, the sound we hear is C and B flat. Alto or tenor sax and trumpet, you notice, changed to no key signature. That's because they're both B flat instruments. So when they play the note C, the note we hear is a C. Whereas down here, I need to use a B flat. And even though a trombone would read that and say B flat, a trumpet player would read that and say C. When they play those 2 notes, it's the same thing. Now when I go back to concert pitch, you'll see it not only changes the key signature, but also changes the note that's written right there. There we go. So, for simplicity's sake, I recommend it would be a little bit easier on you right now to go ahead and turn on show in concert pitch so every key signature is the same. Now, this is where we have a little bit of our split. If you are like an Antonella's type where it has every part already written, this is what you'll do. If you have done a lead sheet where it's just a melody plus chord symbols, this is not for you. This will be a little bit later. We'll go over how to do this step for you. For you guys that took the time to write everything out, this is a little bit easier. All you have to do is copy each line from your original to your new instrument. Now, I recommend that you do the melody in flute and one other instrument. If you want to have alto sax play the melody, or if you're a trumpet player and you want trumpet to play the melody, I recommend you double it in flute. So what I'm going to do is on the side here where it says show different instruments, what I'm going to do is just click on the first main melody, and I'm going to use shift and click and copy everything on the page, and then control C, and then move over to my flute part because I want to put the melody in the flute. And then I'm going to double it in trumpet because I feel like putting some melody in trumpet, but that's my choice. Next, I'm going to go on to the voice 2. I'm going to copy this into my saxophone lines. Copy. Paste it down on alto sax, and control V to paste it onto tenor sax. Now I've noticed in note flight sometimes when we're pasting and when we're doing, it'll have an error where it doesn't quite copyright. Usually all you have to do is hit save and then refresh the page and it should fix it. If it doesn't, I'm going to have to figure out why it doesn't. Yeah, there we go. Nice and pretty. Now voice 3. Actually, I changed my mind. I'm going to put a voice 3 in tenor sax instead of alto sax. So tenors and altos are going to play something different. I'm doing that right now, and I'll explain to you here in a second, Antonella. And then my last part, my bass part, I'm going to copy into trombones, even though it won't really need to move. Ta-da! And again, it's doing that weird error, so all I do is save and refresh. So copying and pasting in note flight works the same as if you were working in a Word document. You just have to, oh no, save changes. You highlight what you need, what you want to copy. So you would click that and it selects the measure. The way you highlight other things is to hold down your shift key and move buttons, or you hold shift and click. No problem on being late there. I know we had a wrong link in there. But you hold shift and click again to highlight things. Then on Windows, you use Control C to copy. C as in cat. And then Control V as in Victor to paste wherever you need to. Now, when I go back to showing all, I can see every part I was working with. Everything that was on my old one is on my new one. And now, because all I want to do is work with the new music, I'm going to go ahead and use this trash can and delete all of the old voicings. One more. And now I have all my music written out for our instruments. Listen to what it sounds like right now. I think that's an error. All right, so let's go back and review what we've done so far with step 2. First, you saved a copy to create a new score so that your changes here don't affect what you've already done. Second, you go to parts and you add the instruments that we use in band. We had flute, alto sax, tenor sax, trumpet, trombone. No bari sax right now, no drums. We're going to add those later. No rhythm section, just our wind instruments for right now. After you add those in, you have to copy from your old parts, and I'll put those back in so we can see how I did that. Please go back. There we go. So once you've added all of our instruments for band, you copy what you've already written in Note Flight onto those new parts. Antonella had a great question on how do you know where to put things, which parts go to which instrument. If you're looking at this one, for example, her work, the first line is our melody. So you copy that first line onto the instrument you want to play melody. My recommendation is flute and one other instrument. So flute and alto saxophone, or flute and trumpet, or flute and trombone, or flute and tenor sax. Your choice, really, where to put the melody. The other parts, the bottom part, I recommend putting into the bass line, or in the trombone line. I'll go over that in a second, Manuela. I recommend putting the third part here, the bass clef part, in the bass line, and then the middle parts you fill into the other voices, other instruments. So if trumpets don't have anything yet, you copy that into the trumpets. If saxophones don't have anything like that, you copy it into the saxophone line. So Antonella, I would say bass part in trombone right now. I would say first part one into wherever you want melody. I would recommend flute and one other instrument. And then part two you would put into whatever instruments are left that don't have anything. Depends on which piece of music you chose there, Juan Ignacio. But you do have to have a line for every instrument that we play in band. Every wind instrument we use in band. Come on, show. Oh man, come on. There we go. So that when you finish copying everything over, it should look like this. Yep, I will upload this live stream to Schoology just like I've done with everything else so far. Now, if you did yours like Respect, and you did it with just a melody, how do you know how to make the background? That's what we're working on. That's about what I'm about to go over now, Manuela. That's what I said at the beginning of the stream. Is that first part was if you already had all the parts. Now we're doing it with just a melody, and we need to add background parts. Here we grow. So, if I was doing it like that, my music might just look like this, where I have my chord symbols, and I have my melody, and that's all. So, if I was going to have to write it like that, let's hide flute, and we'll delete everything else. What did I do? I did the wrong thing. Let's undo that. Whew, Noteflight's being weird. Refresh the page. If you ever Noteflight starts being really weird for you, always just save and refresh. So if I was doing it the other way and all I had was a melody, oh my gosh, why is it doing that? Shift. And we set this up. So this is going to take a little bit. It's going to be a little boring. And trombone. All right. So if yours looked like this and all you have is a melody and chord symbols, you get to do a little bit more work this time. Instead of copying and pasting and choosing where instruments go, what you need to do is after you copied your melody and your chord symbols, you need to add in each of these chord tones. So let's talk about what these mean. You've not seen them written like this, but you have seen them written like this. come on. You have seen them written like this. So what notes should that be? If you see this, what notes should those be? Somebody can answer those in chat. We have 1, 3, and 5 in the key of B flat major. You don't know. Let's think back to our exams. Well, we're in the key of B flat major, and we have the first note, the third note, and the fifth note of the scale. So let's write that in so we can see it. I'll write in the scale right now. Whoa, that's weird. That's weird. Why is it doing that? Right, Maria Clara, B flat, D, and F. So what I need to do on all the other lines that don't have any notes yet, I need to put in one of those three notes, B flat, D, or F. Right now this is just placeholders so you know what notes to put in. This is not about putting in rhythms or style yet. We're just putting in our chords. So you can write it in as in whole notes for right now. So we're going to put that there. Our lowest note, your bottom note, should always be the first note in the chord. So in trumpet, and because I'm in concert pitch right now, I don't have to worry about transposition and thinking, okay, if that's an E or if that's a D, that means it's my whatever. You don't have to worry about that with the show and concert pitch turned on. So we have B flat, we have a D, we'll put an F up here in tenor sax. We'll put alto sax up on a B flat up higher for right now. I'm going to copy that out. There. So I've got the whole chord there. Now, whenever you're dealing with chord symbols, they continue until you see something different. So this is a B flat. That means each one of these measures is the same chord until you get to something different. And we get to something different right here. Now this is called a dominant seventh chord. Now this is called a dominant seventh chord. And this is going to be new and exciting for all of us. So, I want you to think. So for right now, Manuela Salazar, as long as you have all three of those notes in this chord filled in, you don't have to worry about where they go, except for making sure the lowest note is the first note in that chord. So in this case, B flat. So if yours happens to say 7 on it, for right now, I don't want you to worry about the 7s. All you have to be concerned about is this. So once again, we're going to figure out how to write an E flat triad. All of these right now are majors. Well, this is for next week. You have a week to get this one done. So if we're continuing on here, we have an E flat triad. And everything, if it's uppercase, it means it's a major triad. So you don't have to worry about any minor chords yet. So think about your E flat scale and what would 1, 3, and 5 be in an E flat scale? That should be E flat, D, E flat, F, G, A flat, B flat. In your E flat major, your 1, 3, and 5 are E flat, G, and B flat. So those are the three notes I'm going to put in here. It doesn't matter where you put them as long as they are all present. So I put an E flat up here. I'll put a G in trumpet. I'll put a B flat in tenor saxophone. And I could keep a B flat here, but I'm going to put it up on an E flat. No particular reason other than I don't want the alto saxophones to have to play the same notes the entire time. So notice that here it's the same chords, so I'm going to just copy and paste these in. My B flat triads. And my E flat triads. And in a second, I'm going to play this, and you're going to hear how these notes go along with the melody. Here I have an F major triad. I know that in the key of F, 1, 3, and 5 is F, A, and C. That's not a C. And we'll put it up on an F. And finish copying my chords here so we can hear what it sounds like with all the correct chords. Correct, Manuela. These other lines are just going to be chords that go along with the melody, exactly. Almost done here, and then we'll listen to what it sounds like with just the boring whole note chords. And this is the way our music works in class. Usually you'll have a melody in one or two instruments, and the rest of the band is playing some background chords. Let's hear what it sounds like so far with those triads put in. And let me delete my old stuff for right now so it doesn't throw us off in our listening. And all we have is the melody plus the background chords. Let me finish putting in these chords. B flat and E flat. So we can hear this whole little chunk. And I'll review what I've done so far in just a second. That's an E flat triad. Copy. Paste, copy. Paste. F triad, which I wrote in here. Copy. Paste. And B flat. Triad to finish it out. Paste. And I'm going to turn that into a quarter note just for now, so it lines up with everything else that's going on above me. Oh no. So I'm going to go back kind of NLE. I'll go over it again in just a second. But here's what it'll sound like once I've added in all of my background triads based on the chord symbols. This is why it was important. Some of you I mentioned, if you didn't put the chord symbols, this is going to be difficult. So here's what it'll sound like with triads all the way through. You will not need to sing the song, Joaquin. There we go. So that's what it's going to sound like once I've added in all my chords. So, a little quick review here with the time I have left before I'd open it up to specific questions. Is if your piece of music was just the melody with harmony or with chord symbols, what you need to do, how do we know what notes to put, is first you copy the melody over with all of your chord symbols onto whatever instrument you want to play melody. If it's flute, you put it in flute, but I recommend you do flute and one other instrument as melody, your choice. And I recommend if you've got a bass line, you put it in trombone, but you might not have a bass line yet. Second, you go through your chord symbols and you figure out what notes are in those chords. So when they are an uppercase letter with whatever flat sign by it, that means it's a major triad. So you think about that scale, and if you do the first note and the third note and the fifth note in that scale, you'll find the notes that you need. Same thing I did right here. So for example, in the key of B flat, our first note is B flat, our third note is D, our fifth note is F. If I do the same thing with E flat, I'm going to write it in here so we see it as an example. And remember, the E flat scale has B flat, E flat, and A flat in it. Oops. There you go. So if you're looking and it's calling for an E flat major triad, you'd look at 1, 3, and 5 in the key of E flat, which would be E flat, G, and B flat. Boom. Now it doesn't matter right now which notes go in which instrument, except that your bass line, your lowest instrument, in this case trombone, should be the first note of the scale of the chord. So the ones should be in the bottom. The threes and the fives can go anywhere else you want, plus your melody. How do we know what notes to put? Now, that is everything you need to do for step 2. You have a week to do this. How do we know if it's major, minor, or diminished? So let's look at chord symbols for a second. I'm going to just look at here. I'm pretty sure most of them are major in all the pieces of music, so we're going to look at those and make sure that we don't need anything else. But the way it works on these chord symbols, and I'll just write some in right here. Can I write it in here? Good. Make some space. On chord symbols, if it is, for example, just a capital letter, it wants a major triad with that note as the lowest note, with that as the 1. If you see this, and it's a lowercase letter, it's asking for a minor triad. So you would have to, instead of thinking 1, 3, and 5, you'd have to think of a scale where C is on a 2 or a 2, 3, or a 6. And if you were to see one that is diminished, I don't think there are any diminished chords in any of the charts we have, but it would look like this with a little circle after it. But for the most part, I think they're all going to be major triads. I'm going to take a quick look through our originals. I haven't seen anything with minor triads, but let's take a look. Smash and Bank Polka is just parts, I think. Let's look. Major, major. Or, yeah, for a minor triad, it might be written like this for your chord symbol. Instead of a lowercase c, it might be a C with a little M after it. That means a C minor. And we'll go over how to do that in just a second. I'll probably put up another video just for tutorials on chords. Okay, I'll go over the whole assignment again in just a minute before we run out of time. Let's look at the other ones, see which ones I've seen. I know I've seen several people do respect. These are all majors. Like I said, for right now, if it says 7, don't worry about the 7. Just do a major triad. Everything's major there. De colores I've seen. Looks like it's all majors. Yep. 9 to 5 I've seen somebody do. Major, 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 major. And 7s that you don't have to worry about quite yet. I don't think anyone else is. Oh, I saw an Imagine. Let's look at this. That is not what I wanted. There we go. Ooh, there are some minor chords in here. So I'm going to set up a separate tutorial just on how to do chords. And I've seen this question before, but I did it in the last video. In order to export as a PDF. So real quick, let me go over the entire assignment real quick for step 2, and then I'll go over how to set up export a PDF. So if you are step 1, or in step 2, what's your first thing you do is you save it as a copy. You rename it to say step 2 so you don't get them confused. Then you add, oh my gosh, that's going to be a problem. You add all the other instruments. I can accept step 1 until later today. You add all of our instruments from band. Then you copy and paste the melody or all the parts, if you have all the parts, into those different instruments. If you already have all your parts written and you don't need to deal with any of the chord symbols, all you have to do is copy and paste the correct instruments, and then we'll look at that for our next step. We'll be working with that. Step 3 will come later. If you are a person that all you have is a melody and chord symbols, what you have to do is copy the melody and figure out the notes in each chord and add those to our music. It doesn't matter. The only thing that matters is making sure the lowest instrument, in this case our trombones, have the first note of the triad. There we go. Making sure that trombones have the first note of the triad. The other 2 notes, the 3 and the 5, and another 1 even, can go in your other instruments anywhere you want. So there's that. Once you finish all of that, you're going to hit save. And then you need to export this as a PDF so you can upload it to Schoology. The way you do that is you go over here to our 3 lines, go to Score, and go to Export. This will bring up a window that asks you how you want to save it. You do it as a full score PDF. Continue. And then you hit save. And it will save a copy to your computer. which you can then go into Schoology and submit this file instead of like a video file like we do with our recordings. You submit this file into Schoology. On the first step, did we need to put lyrics? Yes, you did. You do need to have the lyrics in there for step 1 because you need to know how to write them. Couple of questions that came up from a few people is if there was more than one verse on one line. So for example, it had like a first verse and then it would repeat and have different words the second time. How do you do that? You double click on the lyric and then press enter. And then you can type in a new set of lyrics. If I did not, because you never told us to, if you did not put lyrics, you do need to have lyrics in there. So you've got till 3:45 to resubmit if you didn't have it on there. And I did say in my previous live stream that oh my gosh, Grammarly's ticking me off. I did say that everything that's there needs to be on your version. You're supposed to copy it as exactly as possible. Got about 4 more minutes in our live stream here for some questions, and I will set up, make a new tutorial that's just on how to, I'm grading each step separately. I will do a tutorial on how to read chord symbols and what you need to do. Please finish it for, I will be checking assignments today starting at 3:45 to see what is done incorrect. If you don't have any questions about what to do next, you are free to go. And I definitely did say that everything that is on here needs to be included in yours. Thanks, guys, for coming. Your technique assignment, I moved to Friday. Technique assignment is due Friday. Can you repeat how to make a PDF? I will in just a second. Technique assignments, playing videos are due Friday. This is due next Wednesday. Your step 1 is due by 3:45 today with a little extra time to get that done. You got about an hour. How to do a PDF. You go to the 3 lines, go to score, and export. And it'll open up a window for how do you want to export the information. Okay, Daniela, I will go over that in a minute. You do full score PDF and continue, and it will save out as a PDF. Danny, I'm going to make another tutorial as soon as we're done here and upload it to my channel and put it in Schoology on how to read chord symbols. Because I feel like that is something that needs to be explained a little bit better with a little bit more time just on that. Any other specific questions on what to do for part 2? Except for chord symbols, because I'm going to do that in a second. All right. Well, how do I put lyrics? How do I do a second set of lyrics? Let me go over that again for Maria Emilia. So I'm going to delete these. Ah! Bye, Isa. Bye, everybody that's on their way out. So first, you write in a set of lyrics like normal. Then, if I need to do a second set of lyrics below, all you have to do is double click where you need to start writing, press enter, and then start writing your next set of lyrics. And we'll do a second row below. This is due next Wednesday before class. Next Wednesday before class. Did that answer your question, Maria Amelia? Cool. Alright guys, I'm going to set up to do a chord video right now, and I'll upload that before the end of the day. Thanks for coming, thanks for being here, and good luck. I'm going to get to work on that, and I am still available by email if you have any other specific questions. I've been trying to stay on top of that during the day, and that's all I got. So y'all have a good day. Bye-bye.